Ever wish you had like a cheat sheet to success? Especially from someone like Jeff Bezos.
Oh, yeah.
Well, today,
Oh, yeah.
we're going to do a deep dive into Bezos' own words
Yeah.
on what it takes to make it as an entrepreneur. We have this awesome article outlining his advice, and it's packed with insights that you can apply to your own journey, whether you're just starting out
Yeah.
or already running your own show.
It's fascinating how Bezos emphasizes the importance of finding your true calling, not just settling for a job. He even uses this powerful analogy of passions choosing you, almost like this undeniable force you can't ignore.
Yeah, it's like that spark
Yeah.
that ignites something within you, that thing you could talk about for hours on end. And you know Bezos himself is a perfect example of this. His lifelong obsession with space was evident even in his high school graduation speech.
Yeah.
Ultimately led him to found Blue Origin. So what about you? What makes you tick? What are you truly drawn to? Maybe this deep dive will help you uncover that driving force within you.
Absolutely. And once you've identified that passion, Bezos has some really practical advice on how to actually build something great. One of the most interesting concepts is his famous two-pizza rule.
The two-pizza rule.
And this isn't about ordering enough pizza for your team. It's about keeping teams small and agile, something that was crucial in Amazon's early days.
So how does this two-pizza rule actually work in practice?
Bezos suggests that teams should be small enough to be fed by, you guessed it, 2 pizzas.
Okay.
We're talking about 5 to 7 people max. The idea is that smaller teams tend to be more efficient, communicate better, and can move much faster.
But wouldn't limiting team size restrict the amount of work that can be done?
That's a common misconception. Bezos found that smaller teams often lead to increased ownership and accountability. You're not just a cog in a giant machine. You have a direct impact on the project's success. And the sense of ownership can actually lead to more innovative solutions and faster progress.
So it's about focusing on impact, not just size. That's an interesting way to look at it. Whether you're leading a project at work or building a company from scratch, this principle can help you avoid getting bogged down by bureaucracy and keep things moving quickly.
Exactly. And this ties in perfectly with another one of Bezos's key principles, iteration. He once said, invent, launch, reinvent, relaunch, rinse, repeat. It's about constantly improving and not being afraid to start over if something isn't working.
It's that classic fail fast, fail often
Yeah.
mentality. But it's more than just failing. It's about learning from those failures and iterating quickly.
Precisely. And if you look at the evolution of Amazon, it's a perfect example of this. They started with books, and now they sell practically everything. But it wasn't a straight line. They were constantly iterating, adding new categories, launching new services, always experimenting and evolving.
So what does this mean for you? What are you working on that could benefit from this iterative approach? Maybe it's a project at work, a creative pursuit, or even a personal goal. The key is to embrace that cycle of continuous improvement, always asking yourself, how can I make this better?
Welcome back. We've been unpacking some key lessons from Jeff Bezos, and now I'm eager to delve deeper into an aspect that's often overlooked, his emphasis on long-term thinking. It's about taking that step back from the immediate, the urgent, and focusing on building something that's truly going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, it's about resisting that urge to chase quick wins and instead focusing on creating something that has a lasting impact.
Exactly. And, Bezos has really demonstrated this with Amazon. He was willing to forego those short-term profits in favor of building a company that could revolutionize the way we shop, consume information, even live our lives.
Yeah, that takes serious discipline, doesn't it? To resist that pressure, to show immediate results, and instead focus on the bigger picture.
It does. It requires patience and a real willingness to play the long game. But the rewards, as Bezos has shown us, can be extraordinary. So I'm curious, how can you apply this long-term thinking to your own goals? What are you working towards that requires you to resist those quick fixes and instead focus on building something truly sustainable?
That's a great question to ponder. Now, long-term vision is one thing, but what about those inevitable roadblocks along the way? I mean, building anything worthwhile is rarely a smooth journey.
You're absolutely right. And this is where Bezos' philosophy on perseverance comes in. Building a successful business, or frankly, achieving anything worthwhile, is a roller coaster of highs and lows. Bezos encountered his fair share of obstacles on his path to becoming a titan of industry.
That's so true. We often see these incredibly successful people and just focus on the end result, forgetting the struggles they went through to get there.
Exactly. Bezos faced intense competition, financial setbacks, even skepticism from investors who didn't quite grasp his vision for Amazon in those early days.
Yeah, it's inspiring to remember that even someone like Bezos face doubt and uncertainty along the way.
Absolutely. And yet he never gave up. He remained laser-focused on his vision, persevered through those challenges, and that unwavering belief in his idea ultimately paved the way. For Amazon's extraordinary success, it's a powerful reminder that setbacks are inevitable. What sets successful people apart is their ability to bounce back, to keep going even when things get tough.
So it's not about avoiding failure, it's about how you respond to it.
Precisely. And this ties into Bezos's emphasis on embracing failure as a learning opportunity. He doesn't shy away from it. He actually encourages young people to not fear failure, but to see it as a necessary stepping stone on the path to success.
That's such a different perspective from how we're often taught to think. We're conditioned to avoid failure at all costs. But Bezos sees it as a source of invaluable lessons and insights.
Each failure, each setback, provides you with an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to refine your approach. In fact, there's a quote from the article where he says, "If you're not stubborn, you'll give up on experiments too soon. And if you're not flexible, you'll pound your head against the wall, and you won't see a different solution to a problem you're trying to solve."
It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between sticking to your vision and being open to new information and approaches.
Exactly. It's that equilibrium between determination and adaptability that's crucial for any entrepreneur who wants to make a real impact.
It's like that saying, the strongest trees are the ones that bend with the wind. They're rooted firmly in the ground, but they're also flexible enough to weather the storms.
That's a great analogy. Now, speaking of bending with the wind, let's talk about another core Bezos principle, innovation and disruption. He didn't just create another bookstore, he revolutionized the entire retail industry by introducing online shopping when it was still a pretty novel concept.
Yeah, he was thinking outside the box, challenging conventional norms, and ultimately transforming consumer behavior on a global scale. Can you even imagine life without online shopping now?
It's hard to imagine, right? And it all stemmed from Bezos's willingness to disrupt the status quo, embrace those emerging technologies, and find innovative solutions to those existing problems. He recognized that staying ahead of the curve requires that constant evolution, constant pushing of the boundaries.
Now, there's another Bezos quote that perfectly captures this mindset. He said, if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness.
It's all about embracing that spirit of experimentation, constantly trying new things, iterating, and refining your approach. And it's not just about product development, it's about finding new and better ways to do everything, from marketing to customer service to those internal processes.
So we've talked about perseverance, embracing failure, and the importance of innovation. These are all critical components of entrepreneurial success. But I'm curious, how does Bezos balance this drive for innovation with his focus on long-term thinking?
Yeah.
Those two things can sometimes feel at odds with each other.
That's a great question. It seems like you need a certain level of stability for long-term vision, but innovation often requires shaking things up. How does Bezos reconcile those two seemingly opposing forces?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between sticking to your core principles while remaining flexible enough to adapt to a changing landscape. Bezos is known for his unwavering commitment to his long-term vision for Amazon, but he also recognizes the importance of being adaptable and adjusting course when necessary.
So it's about having a strong sense of direction, but not being afraid to deviate from the path if a better route emerges.
Exactly. Think of it like navigating a ship. You have your destination in mind, but you also need to adjust your sails based on the winds and currents.
Makes sense. But what are some practical ways someone can cultivate this balance between long-term thinking and adaptability?
One key is to constantly gather information and feedback. Bezos is obsessed with data, with understanding not just what his customers are doing, but why they're doing it. This allows him to anticipate future trends and adjust his strategies accordingly.
So it's not enough to just have a long-term plan. You need to be constantly monitoring the environment and making adjustments as needed.
Precisely. And this brings us to what might be Bezos's most defining principle: customer obsession. It's not just about providing good customer service, it's about a deep-seated obsession with understanding and exceeding customer needs.
We touched on this earlier, but how does this customer obsession actually translate into tangible actions?
Well, think about some of Amazon's most successful innovations. Their recommendations, their one-click ordering, their Prime membership program, all of these were born out of a deep understanding of what customers want and a relentless pursuit of exceeding expectations.
But how can someone apply this customer obsession mindset if they're not running a company the size of Amazon?
It's all about shifting your focus from what you want to sell to what your customer wants to buy. It's about actively seeking feedback, listening carefully to what your customers are telling you, and being willing to adapt your product or service based on what you learn.
So whether you're a freelancer,
Hmm.
a small business owner,
Hmm.
or even just working on a project,
Yeah.
the key is to put yourself in your customer's shoes and ask yourself, what would make their experience better? What would make their life easier?
Absolutely. And this ties into another important point that Bezos emphasizes, the importance of building a strong brand that truly resonates with your target audience. He understood that a brand is more than just a logo. It's a promise, a set of values that customers can connect with on an emotional level.
And Amazon has definitely mastered this. They've built a brand that's synonymous with convenience, reliability.
Exactly. And for any aspiring entrepreneur, building that strong brand is crucial for long-term success. It's about defining your values, your mission, what makes you unique, and then communicating that clearly to your audience. It's about creating an emotional connection with your customers, a sense of trust and loyalty that goes beyond just the transaction itself.
So it's not just about what you're selling. It's about the feeling that people associate with your brand.
Right. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of Bezos's philosophy, and that's the importance of never stopping experimenting. He encourages his teams at Amazon to constantly be experimenting with new ideas and approaches, even if they seem unconventional or risky.
It's about fostering that culture of innovation, where failure isn't seen as a setback, but rather as a learning opportunity. He famously said, if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness.
It's a powerful reminder that progress comes from trying new things, pushing boundaries, and embracing a growth mindset. And this doesn't just apply to product development. It's about experimenting with marketing strategies, customer service approaches, internal processes, anything that can potentially improve the customer experience or make the business more efficient.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the wisdom of Jeff Bezos, what are some of the key takeaways that our listeners can apply to their own entrepreneurial journey?
I think one of the most important lessons is that success isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's about constantly learning, adapting, iterating, and never being afraid to try new things. And while Bezos' journey has taken him to extraordinary heights, the principles he shared are applicable to all of us, no matter what our goals may be. Whether we're starting a business, pursuing a creative passion, or simply trying to improve our lives, his insights can provide valuable guidance and inspiration.
Absolutely. And speaking of inspiration, Bezos often talks about having a day one mentality. It's about approaching each day with the same energy, enthusiasm, and sense of urgency as you did on the very first day of your venture.
It's about resisting complacency, staying hungry, and always looking for ways to innovate and improve. And I think that's a powerful message for all of us to take to heart as we embark on our own journeys. So go out there, embrace your passions, experiment fearlessly, and never stop learning. The world is full of possibilities.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the mind of Jeff Bezos. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final, thought-provoking question. Imagine you had the opportunity to have dinner with Jeff Bezos himself. What one question would you ask him about his entrepreneurial journey? Something you'd be genuinely curious to learn from his experience. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.